Hello and welcome to the National Leadership Briefing. My name is Doug Sharp and I will be your host for today. Well, we have an awful lot to cover this December 2022 edition of War Room because there is still an awful lot coming at us. Now it's time for us also to go tactical. That is what we're doing today, is we're going to be focusing on understanding the strategic ways we're going to have to be thinking in the future. If we've not already been doing it, we need to start thinking strategically and deploying our strategies in a very tactical way. This is why we are broadcasting from the War Room today, is because I want to emphasize to everyone that it is important that as much as the teaching and the training is important, at some point in time, we must take action. And the action we take must make sense, and it must be a well thought out plan, and it cannot be emotionally based. We cannot run down Main Street, as I've always said, with our hair on fire, yelling. We must have a plan, and we must work that plan. So that's what we're going to do in the War Room today. We actually have quite a few new people with us today, so perhaps I'll start there and just quickly explain that normally the Canada Family Action offices is where the National Leadership Briefing is broadcast from. That is where the National Leadership Briefing Training Center is. That is where I do most of my coaching between the National Leadership Briefings for those of you who are activated into whatever sphere you feel called to. But today we are mobile. The War Room was designed to be something that we could put up and take down and operate from wherever we might be. We know that the road ahead may not be too hospitable for people like you and me. So we like to think tactically, we like to be strategic, and we like to look ahead and know that if we have to take this message mobile, we can do so in a heartbeat. So here we are in the War Room today, and I'm looking forward to serving you from here. Well, first of all, on the agenda today, we are definitely going to be covering the NLB Essentials, and I am going to review again the 30,000-foot flyover video that we did last month. That's the November briefing. I'm going to make sure we go over that again, because for those of you who weren't present, that is foundational information you are going to need to know. Then we are going to move into a segment called The Anatomy of Political Influence. For those of you who are new to the political and governmental realm, I can tell you through my experience that influence in the political realm and in the governmental realm ebbs and flows. It is something that is the rises and falls. Sometimes you have more influence with certain individuals in different governments, and sometimes it wanes. Sometimes you have less, sometimes you have more. But what impacts the amount of influence you have is the preparation that you do today for the future of the road ahead. You have to do the work today. You have to be putting in what makes sense now, the time, the strategies, the plans. You have to put them in place now and work those plans so that you will have more influence on the road ahead. So we're going to bring up two examples today for you of where we are at now and where we can exercise our political influence. The second thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at the four pillars, which of course are the four things that we rally around here on the National Leadership Briefing. But I'm going to be doing it from a bit of a different perspective today, because I'm going to give you two quick things for each of the four pillars that you can do immediately to begin to advance the principles that undergird those pillars into society, culture, politics, and government. Everyone's always saying, Doug, I just don't know where to get started. I don't know how to get started. I know we've got these things that we believe in, and I want to have influence out there in society, culture, politics, and government. However, I just don't know where to start. So I'm going to give you two quick things for each of the four pillars that you can do today. You can actually deploy today strategies, things that you can begin to work on to exercise your influence in those areas. Then we are going to move to something called Kingdom Influence, and I'm going to be telling you about another Transformer Zoom event that is going to be coming up, and it's a very exciting one because the topic of that call that's coming up is Kingdom Influence, and you and I know that we have all sorts of authorities that we can exercise here on Earth, everything from citizen authority to constituent authority to community resident authority or parental authority. But when we deploy and utilize kingdom authority, it's very important that we understand the power that is there for us to use as people of faith, as Christians. So what I'm going to do is we're going to be introducing to you the speakers of the upcoming event and inviting you to that event. And then finally, I'm going to be actually talking to you today about something. I'm going to preface it by saying, first of all, that I am not a financial advisor. I do not advise people on matters of finance, but we're going to be talking about a strategy that's being executed by our totalitarian and authoritarian type government right now at the federal level that is working to undermine our confidence in what I call the stored wealth that we have. The stored wealth. So it's very important that you understand this concept today so that you can use this understanding when you make your plans and execute your own personal and financial strategies in the future. So again, not financial advice, but I am going to be closing out today, making sure that you're aware of what it is that I believe the government is doing today to undermine your stored wealth in various areas. So, okay, that's what we've got on the schedule for today. As I say, you know, it's a lot to cover in an hour, but we only meet for 1 hour once a month, always at the same time, the first Friday of every month. And we do it because we want to take up as little as your time as possible so that you can work as effectively as you can be where you're called to be in your own spheres of influence. So you stay where you are and let me serve you here for 1 hour once a month. And then together, though, we give ourselves a bit of a wink and a nod, knowing that we're all out there working together on advancing the principles of the 4 pillars into these other realms of our society. Okay, so let's start off there with the 4 pillars. I'll just show you this quick video so everybody knows what it is we're doing here and what we're working to advance, and then we'll come right back here and get started. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for coming today. Looking forward to serving you. Bye for now. These are the things that we believe in. First, that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. Second, that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number 3, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number 4, that it is inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. They came from you. They're your pillars. They're the things that you believe. That is good enough for us. That should be good enough for our elected representatives. Okay, so parental authority, right of belief, freedom of religion, protecting the vulnerable, and lifting that burden of debt off of the backs of our children are priorities for us here in the National Leadership Briefing War Room, and we will continue to support you in your efforts to advance those principles into society, culture, politics, and government. So let's move forward here today with the agenda. The first item on the agenda, of course, is a review of the training videos that we have on our website, the National Leadership Briefing website. If you're brand new to the video or to the briefing today, I want you to know that we have for you a foundation of teaching that if you are willing to submit yourself to it, if you're willing to take the time to actually review the information, you will find your experience here on the National Leadership Briefing that much more effective and helpful to you in your life. We just ask you to go to the National Leadership Briefing website. That's where you found the registration link for the National Leadership Briefing, but you'll also find that NLB Essentials webpage. It is the NLB Essentials webpage where you will find 4 training videos. The first training video is the Sphere Authority training video, and we're going to actually touch on that slightly today. We are also going to find the Horizon training video, the U training video, and of course, the all-important 4 pillars story. It is the story of where the 4 pillars came from, because we're going to ask you to share that story with other people and invite them to join us here on the National Leadership Briefing. We're happy to have you here, but we're looking forward to meeting all of your friends who share your views and values so that their voice can be added to ours and we can speak with a greater voice when it comes to those national issues that we need to speak to in the future regarding the things that we believe in. So that is all important that you start there. I also am going to include in the post-briefing notes today The November 2nd National Leadership Briefing, that is last month's National Leadership Briefing, pardon me, it was the November 4th National Leadership Briefing, because on that briefing, we reviewed the training for all of those different elements of the training. We reviewed it all right there for you, and it gave you an overview of why it is we train and what we are preparing for. So that is the 4 training videos on, and they're short videos, they're between 7 and 15 minutes, 4 training videos on the National Leadership Briefing webpage called NLB Essentials. And then we also have the 30,000-foot flyover training video, and that is going to be sent to you in the post-briefing notes today. Watch those, because your experience, as I say, will be much richer here on the National Leadership Briefing if you have that under your belt. Now, first of all, we're going to take a look at one of those training videos. It's called the Horizon training video. We're going to take a look at some of the elements that we talk about during that video, because we're going to talk about the anatomy of political influence. And I'm going to begin by saying this, that when you are wanting to have political influence today, the work that you would have need to have done would have been done previous to today. You don't just step into the world of politics and government and all of a sudden exercise influence. If you try to do that, you will find that you'll hit a brick wall pretty quick. And I mean, I'm talking about significant amounts of influence. You're always going to carry with you as an individual citizen a certain amount of authority to speak to your elected representatives. However, I'm talking about exercising much greater amounts of influence on the things that matter to you. So that's why we have something called the Horizon training video, to explain to you all that what we're doing here on the National Leadership Briefing is we're constantly scanning the horizon, looking for those opportunities in those spheres for us to exercise great influence, working together. And we encourage you to build your sphere of influence around you locally so that you can have that same kind of influence at the local level. So let me give you a couple of examples today, because it's important that when we have these opportunities to exercise influence, we want to take a look at them and execute on that opportunity. First of all, I'm getting lots of calls, as I always do, after leadership election votes within political parties. I always get a lot of contact points from people who are saying, okay, now we've got a new leader within the Conservative Party of Canada, for example. We have a new leader within the United Conservative Party in Alberta. We have these new leaders, and I want to exercise influence today. And I have to explain to people, well, the work that you would have had to have done would have happened previous to today to give you that opportunity to have great influence today. And I'll just explain to you what I explained to them. That's the plan. Is I want to tell you that when people call me and I talk about the influence that they can have in the future, I give them a plan that they can work today, that they can walk out towards the next opportunity. And that is the next leadership election, or the next policy convention, or the next election of candidates locally, or the next electoral district association meeting. All of these things are things you plan for. So if they wanted to have influence today with Danielle Smith in Alberta, we have been teaching all the way along up to today that Danielle Smith needed to know during the leadership election when she was a candidate what it is that was important to you and all of the people around you. She needed to know that you weren't alone. She needed to know that the things that you believe in are non-negotiable. And she needed to know that you were willing to withdraw your support at any moment for her if she didn't honor and respect the things that were important to you. All of these communications points happened previously during the leadership election. So on the National Leadership Briefing, when I sit here before you and I say, we really need to get engaged in this leadership election within this political party, it is because I know that down the road, we are going to be executing or exercising influence within that political party to that particular person. And I need to know that you are all participating in communicating with their building those relationships with the candidates. So whoever it is that gets elected, they know who we are and they know what it is that we expect from them. So look at the Pierre Poilievre leadership, for example. We have Pierre Poilievre now in place as the leader of that party. And we exercised a very complete plan. We executed, pardon me, a very complete plan to participate in that leadership election. And none of the candidates could say that they didn't know exactly what it was that was important to the people that we serve here on the National Leadership Briefing. We talked a lot about parental authority. We talked an awful lot about our right of belief and freedom of religion and the priority that we expect government to have when it comes to protecting the vulnerable. And we certainly told them that it was inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. So Pierre Poilievre today knows what's important to you. Now, for those of you who took the time to build those relationships with Pierre and your local member of parliament, you will now have influence on the road ahead as the party moves forward. But wait, there's more. There's even greater opportunities that continue to fall before us where we can prepare for having even more influence. And this is what I'm going to encourage you to do today. Let's not arrive on the day of the policy convention within the Conservative Party of Canada policy convention that's being held in Quebec. That's happening next September. Let's not arrive on that day and go, gosh, I sure wish I had influence. Doug, how can I have influence today in that process? Well, the way you're going to do it is by right now preparing to participate in the process. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be pigeonholed into a ton of work. To whatever degree that you can participate in the policy convention of the Conservative Party of Canada in 2023 in September in Quebec, you need to establish that as a priority. That is a key point for us to be participating in the future. We need to be there. Now, you can be there as a delegate yourself. You can participate in helping to elect a delegate to be there on your behalf. You can participate by joining a local electoral district association board that would help find the delegates to go to convention. You can even get on the phone and rally a bunch of people to come together to just simply vote for the people that we want to send to convention. You don't necessarily have to be a full-time political activist spending your own money to go to a convention in September in Quebec City. However, if you do want to do that, you've got to get in touch with me right away, because I want to make sure that we've got some assistance and mobilized people behind you to help you get started in that plan. But what we're going to be doing in the months ahead, starting in January, is we're going to be working a plan to arrive, all of us together, at the policy convention with a full contingent of people, working with like-minded people, other organizations as well, working with people that believe in the same things we do to advance the principles that we believe in into the policy book of the Conservative Party of Canada. Why? Because you've got a leader of a party, you've got a policy book, you've got the grassroots members. All of these form that balance that we want. So wherever we feel Pierre is strong, that's fantastic. But if he's weak in certain areas and he doesn't quite see things the way we do in other areas, we need to create that balance in the policy book that kind of counterweights that, counterbalance for him. We also need to make sure that locally in the electoral district associations over that time, we are represented on the local boards. People like you and me are sitting there beside the members of parliament every single month, sharing what's important to us so that they can pass it on to caucus and to Pierre in his caucus meetings in Ottawa. So this is what we're going to be doing on the road ahead. And we're using where we're at now with those phone calls, the people phoning me and saying, I want influence, I want influence. Well, you didn't do the work back then, so you're not going to have any influence today. We're going to use that as kind of a, hey, we don't want to be in that situation, so let's put the work in now, starting in January, moving forward, preparing for these all-important opportunities for us to advance the things that we believe in into the future. So I want to make that clear to you. That is the anatomy of political influence. It's a plan. It's over time. It ebbs, it flows. It isn't just a thing you pull out of your pocket all the time and just wield in a big way. If you execute a strategy and you work together, there's an awful lot that can be accomplished, but we got to work. together. That's the key. All right, so we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come right back, and then I want to take a look at these 2 quick things that we can all do immediately to advance the principles that we believe in into society, culture, politics, and government, things that you can do without any trouble at all. Believe me, it's real user-friendly. I'll be back in a flash. Thanks so much for your time. Okay, moving right along. We are into a segment called 2 Quick Things. And the reason why we call 2 Quick Things 2 Quick Things is because what we have found in the world of citizen action over many years is that sometimes people take a look at the task ahead and the mountain of challenges that are before them, and they freeze in place. They actually either get discouraged and feel that a sense of hopelessness that they can't really do anything, or they look at it and go, gosh, that's a big and foreign thing to me, this challenge, and I don't know where to start. So what we have found is that if you can give people just a starting point, just something that they can knock off right away, and where they're at, again, without like sending them to school for 6 weeks or working out in the gym for 5 months. It's just a starting point. So we give them the starting point, which is the first quick thing, and then another quick thing right behind it, because when you'll find that when you knock off that first quick thing, you're going to be hungry for the second quick thing. So that's why we call it 2 quick things. And one day we'll move it to 3 quick things, because I know you're all going to get so good at it. But this is something, if you say, oh, Doug, I'm way past that, and I'm way past the starting point, then perhaps you'll take this information and you'll share it with someone else who might be frozen in their place or looking hopelessly at the mountain of challenges before us. And you'll encourage them, like I have seen 2 quick things be an encouragement to others. So here are the 2 quick things that we're going to be giving you points on today. And that is with each of the 4 pillars, there are 2 quick things that we can do to advance them, to begin to advance them, as we are here to do collectively. We bring our voices together and we want to move the things that we believe in down the road into these other spheres and say, these are the things that we believe in together. So first of all, the first pillar of the 4 pillars, of course, is that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. So we want to move that down the road and advance that into the conversations that are taking place in government. And we want the elected officials to know that this is something we believe in together. There's many of us out there. So this is the first quick thing that you can do. The first quick thing that you can do is that if you are a parent of school-age children, the first quick thing that you can do is make a decision that this is a non-negotiable for you, that this is something that you believe is important to you. You need to own it as a parent. Oftentimes that it might seem like, well, wait a second, Doug, that seems, of course, I believe that parents have a right to, well, I think you need to spend a couple of minutes here just drilling it in there and go, you know what? Maybe a little positive self-talk and go, you know what? This is important to me. I got kids. I want my kids to be raised the way I want to be raised. I don't want to turn them over to someone else. I don't want someone else to corrupt my child's mind. So I believe that parents, as a parent, I have the right to raise my child and my children the way I want to. And so if I get any pushback from that, I am going to stand and affirm my right as a parent because I made a decision to do that. And this may, again, it may not seem to make a lot of sense, but the power of that decision, when you come up against the resistance that you are going to come up against, say perhaps when you enter the realm of your school boards or when you enter your children's school and you take a look at some of the questionable things that are being taught there, then you're going to need to stand on that. You're going to need to stand on that and be firm in that. So I am encouraging you to pause as a parent of school-age children and make that decision. Now, the other quick thing that you can do is you can make the decision to help other parents participate along with you. You can make the decision to make this a team sport. So in your mind, the quick thing that you can do is say, you know what? I'm going to find someone else that believes in the same things that I do. I'm going to find someone else. I don't know who they are yet, but the quick thing I'm doing today is I'm committing to myself that I'm going to make the decision that this is a non-negotiable, that it's something I believe in, that I am going to affirm that in my own head, my own heart, that I have the right to raise my children the way I want, and I'm going to find someone else that feels the same way about their children. Those are the two quick things. And if you do those two quick things, you are going to advance. You're going to propel yourself forward and get some momentum. And you are going to find lots more than just one parent around you that believes in that. Okay, the second pillar is we believe that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. So we believe that those we elect to serve us in civil government, we elect them. They must serve us. They must serve us in a way that satisfies us. And to do that, you have to respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. So the first thing I want you to do then, the first quick thing, is to ask yourself the question and answer it in the affirmative. Is this really that important to me? Because what's happening out there is that people seem to give up their right of belief and freedom of religion pretty quickly. They actually seem to forfeit it. They kind of hand it over to civil government. And so they haven't really thought it out and asked themselves the question, is this important to me? And answered the question, yes. It is. And I'm telling you today, I'm encouraging you to make that yes decision, that your right of belief and freedom of religion, the things that you believe in and the right to believe what you believe and the right to walk it out in your life is the freedom of your religion. If you don't answer in the affirmative, that's important to you, I can tell you it's critical to the success of your own life as a Christian. And also it's critical to the impact that you can have on other people, because walking out our Christian faith is actually the fulfillment of the Great Commission. And it is the greatest of commandments to love our neighbor and engage with others. But if we're restricted in that right, so is this important to me? Yes, it is important to me. So that's the first quick thing that you can do. And then the second thing that you can do is to get a pen and a piece of paper together and make a list of your MLA and your MP, your local elected representatives at the federal level and the provincial level. And then I want you to actually just find their contact points. Again, I'm not asking you, the second quick thing is just a quick thing. So I'm not asking you to do a whole bunch of stuff, but find their contact points. Look on the internet. It's easy. If you Google the name of the person and put MP or MLA behind it, and then put contact, then on the internet, it'll just pop up in front of you as to what their phone numbers are, their email addresses. And then I'm going to leave that as the second quick thing for right of belief and freedom of religion for those you elect, because I believe that after you have decided that your right of belief and freedom of religion is important to you, the first quick thing, and you combine that with your knowing of the connection point and how to contact your elected representative, I think naturally you're going to move to the third quick thing, and that is to let your elected representative know that that's important to you, that you expect them to rise up in defense of your right of belief and freedom of religion, and that you're going to let them know that if you've been on the briefing, you're going to let them know by using the language that we teach here, that if they do not respect and defend your right of belief, that you will actively work to remove them from office at the next electoral opportunity. That is the thing that politicians and they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear you and I standing up and asserting our right of belief and freedom of religion and demanding that it be respected in a polite way, no banging our fists on the table, being polite. But they definitely don't like to hear that you're not going to be apathetic. You're not going to just like disappear into the night and do nothing if you're angry with them or unhappy with their service to you. No, you're actually going to actively work to remove them from office at the next electoral opportunity. That is something that's coming at them. That is that, and it is a political threat. It's not a personal threat. But that's you have to do that. You have to let them know, look, you're not my guy. You're not my gal. If you're not going to rise and defend my right of belief and freedom of religion, when you look at legislation, if you're not going to rise in defense of me and my right of belief, when you've got all of these different policies that are being acted by governments, if you're not going to do that, you're no good. Really, you're no good to me. You're not going to help me in my walk of faith. So I'm going to work to remove you from office at the next electoral opportunity. Now, just so you know, I teach you how to do that. We like removing people from office. We do. It's part of the political process. It's not mean-spirited at all, by the way. It's actually done very calmly and in a very methodical way, and it's just a process. But some people aren't fit to lead. They're just not fit to be members of parliament. They're not fit to be members of legislative assemblies, and they really should be removed from office. So we need to, that's getting people elected is just part of the process. We also work to remove people from office. So that is the second pillar. And the two quick things that you can do is definitely decide that it's important to you and get the contact points of your elected representatives at the provincial and federal levels. The third pillar is that we believe that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizen, especially the vulnerable that live among us in our communities. We care about vulnerable people. So the two quick things that you can do is, first, look around you. Look around you. Just look around in your world at wherever you're placed, wherever God has you, in whatever sphere of influence that you operate in, and look around you and identify who are the vulnerable people that live among me, around me, and among us in our community. Who are they? And get to know them. Just eyeball them and make a list of all of who they are. Do you have shut-in elderly around you? Do you have young women and girls? Because they're vulnerable. I'll tell you right now, they're vulnerable. How about babies in the womb? Yeah, is anybody pregnant around you? How about elderly people that have chronic pain? They're vulnerable. People that maybe don't have a lot of money, they're vulnerable. Whoever they are, make a list. Okay, that's the first thing, is make a list. And then the second thing is to inform and educate yourself on the threats. Like, make it a priority of your own. You can't just say that government should be responsible for passing laws and policies that provide for the safety and security of the citizens if you also don't have some kind of a personal stake in it yourself at the local level. Like, the vulnerable people around you, they're vulnerable. Is there anything that can be done now? And if you can help your church family or help someone around you understand the plight of these people and see if there might be some real quick fixes. Like, let me give you an example. Pardon me. In right now, one great threat to vulnerable people is the euthanasia legislation and the expansion of it in Canada, the expansion of euthanasia. And so what's happening out there right now is churches that are aware of this and that they have vulnerable people in their community, in their church family, they're making sure that people are educated on how to prevent this idea getting into your head and contaminating your head so that you don't die a premature death. I mean, this is really something that a lot of people are picking up on right now in their own local communities. Is, wait a second, there's a lot of people that need advocates. They need help. They need people to help them, to protect them. Someone's going to the hospital. You got to go, wait, who are they going to the hospital with? Have they got somebody to help them along? So anyway, that's the second quick thing that you can do. So first of all, then, look around you. Who's vulnerable? Second thing is make some sort of a plan locally that you can execute, is seeing if there's not some things you can do really easily to help protect them. Okay, the fourth pillar, two quick things. This is real important because a lot of people, this is fiscal policy. This has got to do with government policy. It's like the fourth pillar is, it's inappropriate for civil government to heap debt on the backs of our children and future generations. It all boils down quite simply to borrowing money, spending it today that our future children are going to have to pay for. So the first quick thing is to identify sources of good information on where you can find out just information as it's available on the burden of debt that's being placed on our children and future generations. And I'm going to give it to you right now. I'm going to give you a couple right now so you don't have to go looking around for it. Because remember, they're quick things. They're not supposed to be you out running around doing a bunch of work. The quick thing is, I'm going to give you the first one. It's the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Get on their mailing list. Go to their website. I'll put it in the post notes. Get on their mailing list. All they'll do is they'll make sure as they go along and as they educate, they're really good on education. They'll bring you along on the road and help you to understand what debt does, and not only today, but also to our future generations and the bond servants that are created of our children when the government spends money they don't have on things today. So the second list to get on is the Fraser Institute. The Fraser Institute often has, you'll really enjoy the articles. You may not read 6 of them, but you'll get one that pops up there that talks about the debt, the burden of debt, and some really good information there as well. So I'll include that in the post briefing notes as well. Okay. And then the second quick thing, so you've got get the contact points and get on their mailing list, get some more information. The second thing is be resolved in your own heart. It's just say, I am resolved in my own heart that I am not going to make financial decisions based on what the government tells me to do today. Because the government is not your friend when it comes to your own personal financial decisions. So get help from outside of government and be committed to doing that on your financial decisions. Now, that may sound like financial advice, but it's not. I'm just saying, if you're thinking strategically, don't get the advice from somebody who does something poorly for something that you want to do yourself. Like if I go to a dentist, I want him to have good teeth, right? If I get my hair cut, I want the guy cutting my hair to have a good haircut, right? So like, I mean, it helps you to make a decision. So the government is no good at handling money. Don't take their financial advice is the second quick thing. Be resolved in that. All right, great. We're going to come back. We got a quick announcement here of an event that's coming up here, Transformer Zoom call coming up. It's all about exercising something kind of cool called Kingdom Authority. So I know you're going to want to hear about it. Thanks so much for your time so far. We'll be right back. Bye for now. Okay, moving on. Well, once every 2 months, I have the pleasure of participating with a group of ministries, not only here in Canada, but across the border into the United States, as we work to advance city action councils. These are community action councils or city action councils. This is an outreach of churches working with marketplace leaders and networking with municipal government leaders and everyone coming together in the community, being a good neighbor and effecting positive change in their community wherever needed. And so we have a desire in our heart to build these ministries locally in the cities that our people, the people that we serve, live. And so if you have a heart for your city, then you're going to really be excited about this next segment here, because we have the announcement coming up here on December the 8th of this upcoming next Transformer Zoom call, we call it, where we get together on a call with our international partners from the United States and Canada, and we all come together and we bring speakers on with this group. This is a group that we all form together, and we bring speakers on to help us build these community action councils and these city action councils in our own community. So this month coming up on December the 8th, we have Richard and Kimberly Wilson. And let me tell you something about these two. These are coach trainers. These are people that for their profession, they work strategically to help individuals exercise this transformative influence in their communities, and they do it in the areas of intercession as well. So there's definitely a prayer component to their ministry, and they're going to be talking about, well, I won't tell you what they're going to be talking about because they're going to tell you themselves. I want to introduce them to you now. So this is a really good friends. Looking forward to spending more time with them, of course, in the future. But please let's welcome them on now and have them tell us a little bit more about their ministry and the upcoming talk that they're going to be giving on the Transformer Zoom call on December the 8th. Well, Richard and Kimberly Wilson, thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to hear about what's coming up. But first, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I've given an introduction, but how are things going? Where are you at, and what are you working on?
Yeah, we're good. There's exciting things happening. We're up north of Charlotte in a place called Moravian Falls. We moved here full-time October a year ago. We were going back and forth from here to Florida. Most of our boots on the ground stuff was in Florida, but then when COVID happened, it opened up the whole Zoom thing. And so now we can do it. We do a lot of Zoom training here in Moravian Falls.
Fantastic. And we're excited because upcoming, we have, of course, the City Action Council Transformer Zoom calls regularly. They're happening every 2 months now. And on December the 8th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Kimberly, you and Richard, you're both going to be presenting on the next Zoom. We're excited to hear about that. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening on that Zoom call?
Sure. We have the topic Kingdom Revealed, which is something that we realize some people don't know how to walk out their Christian life and don't understand the authority that God's given them. And what we see a lot of times is people go to church Sunday after Sunday, or they may sit in a seminar and they get all fired up when they're there, but they walk out the door and don't know how to apply that to their everyday life. Mm-hmm. And so what we're planning on talking about are just a few points. Understanding the kingdom of God, walking out our king and priest's identity, how to reveal the kingdom wherever you go, and connect with other kingdom ambassadors. And what we found is when people have those keys and have those tools to learn how to connect in the community and be kingdom ambassadors everywhere that they go, they start seeing measurable results in the relationships that they have and the projects that they're working on.
Yeah, I love that this is the subject and the matter that's going to be discussed on the next call, because as much as I've really appreciated the calls before, I mean, what have we covered? We've talked about getting your city action council programs moving. We'd started out there, and then of course falling in love with your community. That was such a fantastic presentation. We've been given lots of bricks and mortar along the way. But when you start calling down the kingdom and start applying the authority of God that you already possess in the work of being a good neighbor, my goodness, I just get excited about what's possible. Have you seen like kingdom authority being applied in communities before and seen major transformation?
Yeah, some of the things, again, from our background, because the place of kingdom for us so many times was in the place of intercession. And then when God took us outside kind of the walls of, in my case, the church, and recognizing that the kingdom is huge and that God then wants the authority that he has given his people to be manifest wherever they are. And so the message automatically changes and says, okay, let that authority that's given to you, let it be expressed in whatever place God's placed you. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we, especially in the Tampa Bay area, in getting outside the walls of the church, just one quick thing was just the authority of the believer to pray. Mm-hmm. And so just a real quick testimony. We were in the worst middle school in Hillsborough County, which is the fourth largest school district in the nation. One school, nobody wanted to teach there, all kinds of problems going on. We just said, hey, principal took the job. She was a Catholic gal, really wanted to see God do something. What could we do to help? We just went in one day a week, said, give us a room to pray in before school starts. Mm-hmm. So long story short, we had a team of people, would go anywhere from 5, maybe 8 people, went in there with the authority that we knew that we had and just prayed and read scriptures. And literally the testimonies of what happened in the school were fabulous. I'll just give you one in terms of lockdowns. They had lockdowns the year before. When a lockdown happened, the school was locked down almost all day long. Couldn't go to the bathroom, couldn't do anything. When we were praying, the principal said, you can't stop doing what you're doing. We've only had 3 and they were over in 45 minutes. Just the thing of attendance changed. Just the thing of, she comes to us, I'll end with this, but she comes to us and she says, do you see what I'm wearing? She said, I'm wearing a dress. So what? You're the principal, you're wearing a dress. She said, no, you don't understand. I could never wear a dress because I was breaking up fights constantly. So again, just an expression of the kingdom moving outside the walls of the church with a handful of people that just said, we're going to come and pray. And fabulous things took place.
Praise the Lord. My goodness, that's exciting to hear, because, you know, it's funny. I always will reach for sort of the mechanical things, and I go, oh yeah, or I could just pray. You know, it's just like, it's fantastic to hear that and be reminded about that. Well, we're excited about this upcoming event that's coming up on December the 8th. I encourage everyone who hears this message today to join the call, and you join the call with the email address that we're going to be providing for you. Just send a request. And for those of you that are on the call, who actually join the call, they're going to be receiving something special as well. What is it that we're going to send out to them after the fact?
We're going to send post notes out afterwards. So you'll get a full outline of what we've been teaching and some more pointers on how to advance the kingdom in your community.
Fantastic. Something that you're going to be able to share as well. So this is great. I sure am excited about what's coming up. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to find out a bit about it today. Richard Kimberly, appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
We're crying out for the church to be the church in the community.
The ecclesia is a relational model that God has been calling forward.
Being present is about showing up on a regular basis.
So I'm convinced that God will birth a love in one's heart for the place He has put you in. And sometimes that requires a process. Sometimes we don't initially love the place where we are or where God is sending us, but we respond in obedience.
And I believe there must be the restoration of the cry of God in the heart of us as leaders to cry out to God for our cities.
And for those of you who have a heart for your local community, then I would encourage you to participate in what we call Transformer Calls, focused on your engagement and the love that you have for your communities. And yes, I will make sure that in the post-briefing notes today, you are provided with an easy link that you can click on to register for that meeting on December the 8th. If you have a heart for your community, remember, you're going to want to be there. It's going to be a great meeting. Okay, we're on the home stretch now. Thank you so much for your time and attention so far. However, we just got a few minutes left. I want to finish up today with a segment I'm going to call the Stored Wealth segment. And the reason I call it that is going to be apparent to you in a moment. However, I want to start here. We've talked today about the Horizon training video. We've talked about the U training video, the you and the authorities that you possess. And we've talked about kingdom authority. We've talked about some of the resources that are available to you on our website that are foundational for your understanding about the work that we're doing here. But we're going to finish up today with what we're calling the Stored Wealth segment, and it's really going to be important for you to watch the Sphere Authority training video that is on that website that I spoke about earlier. The Sphere Authority training video talks about how you and the church and your family and the marketplace, you all have a sphere of authority that you operate in. Each of us working together up to the jurisdictional limit of our authorities, each of us working together, doing what we're supposed to do to live in a society that serves all. But what do you do when the civil government sphere of authority grows and expands itself? What do you do when it mutates beyond its jurisdictional limit of its authority? Well, in Alberta, Danielle Smith is launching legislation in Alberta called the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act. And she just announced that this week. And she's pushing back. She's pushing back against civil government at the federal level, encroaching upon the authority of provinces to govern themselves. In our own lives, we too can push back. We can do these things. We can push the government back by saying things like, you know what, my authority as a parent to raise my child the way that I want is non-negotiable. We can say to our politicians, if you don't respect and defend my right of belief and freedom of religion, I will work to remove you from office. There's all sorts of things that we can do to protect the vulnerable nationally if we work together on the National Leadership Briefing. And we can, of course, all make a lot of noise about government spending. Now, in the Sphere Authority training video, you're going to find, though, that we also have to have an understanding as to what the motives and intentions of government are and the strategy that they're deploying to take over and to basically terrorize us citizens and other spheres of authority within society. When a jurisdictional limit of authority is breached by civil government into the lives of an individual or a family or the church or a province, in Danielle Smith's case, it is a tyrannical act that demands a response. But we want to know and understand more about the tyranny itself. And so what we're looking at today here, just in closing, is a couple of comments and things that I realize about the tyrannical mannerisms of the government that we have at the federal level right now. The Trudeau Liberal government is acting in a very specific way, and they're executing a very specific plan to take total control of all aspects of society. This is a major move on the population of our nation, and if we don't understand what they're doing and how they're doing it, it's going to be difficult for us to push back. So let's take a look at one aspect of their plan today as we close. And that is the attack on stored wealth within our lives. And when I say stored wealth, I'm referring to things like, think about it this way, the equity that's in your home, the cash that's in your bank, the RSPs that you possess, the car in your driveway, the food on the shelves in your home, the water that comes out of the tap. All of these things are stored wealth. You have built all of these things up in your life to actually give you some insulation from dependence on others. So you pay your light bill because you like to stay in the light. You've provided yourself with a roof over your head. You've taken after-tax dollars and invested into a home, and you've built up equity in your home. Now, we as Christians, we don't have total confidence in these things, because our confidence, as we're taught and trained, is to be in Christ Jesus. That is where our confidence comes from. However, in day-to-day life, we have built up these things around us. We have lived good lives and been wise, and we have protected ourselves from falling helplessly to the ground at the end of the day. And those also, the provisions in our lives are available to us so that we can help others. But what the government does when they see us with these things around us that we own, these things that bring us comfort and perhaps give us confidence that we can move forward or provide us an element of confidence, they see that as stored wealth that must be released from our lives because we are independent and they are trying to make us dependent. So they'll take a look at, for example, the equity in your home, and they will muse openly, which is what's happening with this Trudeau Liberal government, about the idea of taxing equity in homes. So they want to break down the confidence that you have in the equity in your home. Or they'll take a look at the money that you've got in your bank account, and they can't reach into your bank account and just take the money out. They can't just steal it daily. So what they do is they devalue the money itself, so that the money that you have in your bank and the amount of money in your RRSPs or your savings plans for your retirement become worth less. So you have less confidence in these things to sustain and support you, and you become more likely dependent on government, which is, of course, where they want you to be ultimately, is ultimately dependent on government. They mess with the supply chain. The confidence that you have in your life as you go through life, as you walk into the grocery stores, and for all those years, you just walked in there and everything was always there on the shelves. Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of spaces on the shelves. And so the confidence that you have in the supply chain isn't there anymore. Or you go to the gas station and you buy gas and it's always abundant and it's inexpensive because we are a resource-rich nation. And all of a sudden, the confidence that we have that we can afford to purchase fuel for our vehicles is diminished. Slowly but surely, the government is attacking any aspect of stored wealth or confidence in our lives and working to diminish it, because these stores of wealth stand in the way of them fully realizing their plan to completely take over your lives. The free and independent citizen, reliant on the cash reserves they have, or even the faith they have, is standing in the way. You try to imagine, let me just talk about the faith that we have, for example. If you're trying to impose your will as government on the family, then the mother and the father will say, hey, wait a second here. You know what? I got this. I'm raising my family the way that I want to raise my family. But if you want to undermine the confidence that parents and children have in each other within a family, then you question or you undermine the definition of the components of a family. That's a good example of an attack, don't you think? Or if you want to undermine the confidence that people have in their church family. Hey, I can lean on my church family if I get really jammed. I can always count on my church family because we meet every Sunday. Well, what did we learn over the last couple of years after the COVID lockdowns? Is that we cannot necessarily have the confidence of the ability to meet and to come together and support each other in our own church families. You see where this is going? Everywhere there is stored wealth and confidence, they are trying to break it down because they want us dependent on them. On the other side of the equation, this is what I see from where I sit. I see things like the universal basic income bills, where all of a sudden government is launching legislation compelling civil government itself to look into ways to provide a universal basic income to everybody. What does that tell me? That tells me that the confidence that perhaps small business or medium-sized businesses have had in themselves, in their ability to grow their business, to do business, to take care of their families and their employees, and to continue to work and add to society. Well, all of a sudden, the businesses of the marketplace are becoming more and more hobbled by civil government. For what purpose? So that they lack the confidence to move forward on their own. And you see a lot more businesses relying on government. They call them zombie corporations when they're just basically being held up by the government, but they long ago died because of the restraints of civil government on them. Again, to what end? To the end that everyone in society, marketplace, the individual, the church, the family, is all entirely dependent on civil government. A Marxist, totalitarian dreamscape is what they have in their mind. So we have to push back. And it's important that we do, because if we don't, and they continue to undermine and tear down our confidence in the things that we believe in, then they're going to take over our entire lives and diminish our ability to fulfill our lives as Christians, to walk the walk we are compelled to walk by the Great Commission, and they're going to have control over us. And this is very, very important for us as Christians to pay attention to. So I wanted to leave these thoughts with you because I'm hoping that as you go through life now, as you walk the road ahead and you see the moves by civil government to do things like, you might say, wait a second, all of a sudden, they're talking about taking away ammunition and firearms. Now, in your life, you might not have a firearm, and you might say, well, wait a second, guns off the street, that's a good idea. Well, there are a lot of people out there that actually are thinking to themselves, wait a second, if they're going to take aspects of my food supply away from me, I want to be able to go out and I want to be able to get my own food. Now, you might think that we're just always going to have food on the shelf here in Canada, but there are others out there who know that this is not necessarily going to be the case. If there are food shortages and we have challenges in the future, having firearms to provide yourself with food might be one way we've got to deal with that. Matter of fact, me, myself, I can tell you right now, I went out and got my hunting license. I actually went out and took the hunting course, and I actually purchased a hunting rifle, and I am ready to go. So I'm feeling a lot more, but then that's a confidence that I have where I'm not going to be reliant on government. Not everyone's going to be able to make that choice. So this is the kind of thing I want you to take a look at the moves of government. See how it affects your life. See if it's not targeting your stored wealth. If it's something to do with a fiscal policy or a tax policy, make sure that you understand that this is a very aggressive attack on your sovereignty as an individual or your family or the church. So thanks so much for letting me share that. I'm certainly looking forward to unpacking that more with you, but perhaps you'll unpack it yourself as you go forward and you see the things that I see that the government's doing on the road ahead. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you for continuing to walk this road with us. I know that without you, we would have a much smaller voice here in our nation, but because you're here and because you continue to promote this to others who share your views and values, and you continue to invite them to the National Leadership Briefing, we will always have a strong voice when it comes to pushing back civil government, especially. Thanks so much again. Have a great day. In the meantime, until next time, God bless you, God bless your family, and may God continue to bless this great nation of Canada. Bye for now.